all about ships. There's all these chapters. Moving things from here to there. Ships carry goods that are bought, sold, and traded around the world. Every day, people, animals, and goods are moved from place to place around the globe. This process is called transportation. Since almost 75% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, ships do a lot of this work. Ships are large boats that can carry passengers or cargo for long distances over water. Before the invention of the airplane, crossing oceans and large bodies of water could only be done by ship. Although there is faster transportation now, ships are as important today as they have ever been. Commercial ships move almost 4 billion tons of cargo every year. Food, wood, and minerals are taken from farms, forests, and mines to factories around the world. There, they are used to make millions of products ranging from anvils to zippers. These new manufactured goods are then shipped around the world. Large cargo vessels may take weeks or even months to reach their destinations. The parts of a ship. Ships are carefully designed to operate safely and efficiently. Ships are basically large boats, so they have many of the same parts. The front of the ship is called the bow, the back is the stern. The ship's left side is known as the port side. The ship's right is the starboard side. The ship's frame or body is called the hull. The keel is like the ship's backbone. It keeps the ship from tipping over. The rudder is a flat panel that's moved from side to side to provide steering control. Ships usually have many decks. The decks are like the floors of a building. Cabins for passengers, engine and control rooms, and spaces for cargo are often on different decks. An engine inside the ship provides energy to propellers at the back of the ship. The propellers propel the ship through the water. When the ship is not moving, the heavy metal anchor may be lowered into the water. This keeps the ship from floating away. A large amount of electronics and computer equipment is needed to control and navigate today's large ships. Propel means to push or drive forward. From yesterday to today, the first boats were carved from trees. They were called canoes. At first, people used their hands to move their canoes through the water. Eventually, wooden oars were used instead of hands. Later, people attached sails made of cloth to masts on their boats. This allowed them to use the wind to power bigger boats through the water. These bigger boats were the first ships. Using sail and oar power together allowed these ships to move faster. Ancient artwork tells us that ships were a large part of everyday life even thousands of years ago. By the 1400s, ship design had improved. Aside from trade, ships were also used for exploration and war. By the 1400s, ships began to carry as many as 3 masts. Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and other explorers used ships like this to reach unexplored territory. When new lands were found, settlers moved there on ships. Once travel between countries became easier, trade increased, and ships became bigger. A mast is a long pole that rises from the bottom of the ship or boat and supports the sails and rigging. For the next 400 years, most ships were made mainly of wood. Wood was a plentiful resource. Then, a big change came to ship design. In the 1800s, iron began to replace wood as the most popular shipbuilding material. It was stronger and made it possible to build larger ships that could carry more goods. Iron was also used to build the mighty steamboats that replaced sailing ships. The first steam engines ran on coal. The engines became smaller as time went on, leaving more room for more cargo. These improvements had an important effect on trade around the world. Thanks to modern engines, a ship can now cross an ocean in a few days instead of a few weeks. Oil powers most modern ship engines today, but some use coal or nuclear energy. Iron made it possible to build even larger ships. The skeleton of a new ship under construction can be seen above. See that? Ships can be powered by different fuels. Here, men shovel coal into large fires to create energy to power their ship. Think about it. Why are engines more reliable than sails for powering a ship? Cargo ships. The first cargo ships were built by ancient Egyptians. They carried trading cargo as well as huge pieces of stone. The stones were used to construct buildings and monuments. Today, cargo ships carry much more. Cargo ships carry almost anything that can fit in boxes, crates, bales, and barrels. They also carry products that are hard to ship in containers, such as coal, grain, steel, lumber, and farm products. Some cargo ships can even carry small numbers of people. There are several types of cargo ships. One type is known as a roll-on, roll-off ship. These ships have large ramp at the bow or stern that allows vehicles to be driven on and off cargo ships for transport. This saves hours of loading and unloading time. Two other major types of cargo ships are tankers and container ships. Before the steam engine was invented, ancient vessels were powered by humans using oars. There's a picture of automobiles being driven onto the loading area of a roll-on, roll-off ship to be shipped overseas. Think about it. Some cargo ships are huge, more than 1,000 feet long. On a ship that big, do you think you could feel the movement of the ocean? Tankers. Ships called tankers transport liquids such as oil and chemicals. The ships contain many tanks, so if one tank fails, the rest will remain safe. Tankers also carry less dangerous liquids such as orange juice and vegetable oil. Most tanks are contained in the bottom of the ship. Oil tankers carry oil, which is taken to refineries where it is used to make gasoline, diesel fuel, and heating oil. These new products are loaded onto new tankers and taken around the world. Modern tankers can transport 10 times more than ships could 50 years ago. This increase in capacity means larger ships and larger risk. Any spill from a supertanker could seriously damage the environment or hurt people. Chemicals must be transported in special tanks lined with protective coatings. A tank's inside coating depends on the liquid being transported. Oil tankers, like this one, carry almost 2/3 of the world's oil supply. This diagram shows the below-deck arrangement of a typical tanker. See all that? Capacity is the largest amount or number that can be contained in something. Container ships. Containers are large boxes made of metal. They come in two lengths, but they all have the same width, so they can be stacked and transported easily. They hold goods that have been manufactured and are ready to sell. Container ships can carry food, televisions, clothing, and more. Containers are stored above deck as well as below. Mega ships can carry almost 20,000 containers. Holy cow. There are more than 20 million cargo containers in use worldwide. See all those containers? Shippers must keep track of every container for the system to work. They do this by labeling each container and checking when it departs and arrives. Some shippers track their containers electronically. When ships pull into port, the containers are removed by crane. From there, they are taken to their destination by trucks or by trains. Heavy-duty cranes are needed to move containers off of ships. An empty container can weigh as much as 6,000 pounds. A crane is a machine with a swinging arm for lifting and carrying heavy loads. Industrial ships. Industrial ships carry out an industrial process at sea. Some industrial ships are also factory ships. As the name suggests, these ships are like factories at sea. For instance, fish factories are ships that work out in the ocean with a fleet of large fishing boats. As ships catch fish, they pull alongside a factory ship. The factory ship processes and freezes the fish. Once loaded, it can be taken directly to shore for sale. Some industrial ships do not go anywhere for a long time. For example, deep-sea oil rigs are placed in one spot to pump oil from the ocean floor. They have crews that work, eat, and sleep on board. Some industrial ships incinerate hazardous waste far at sea. Many of today's oil rigs are portable. They can be towed by large ships to new locations. Factory ships are floating factories where fish are caught, processed, and frozen. Compare and contrast. Compare an oil rig out at sea with one on land. How could they be different, if at all? Could one replace the other? Military ships. The Navy is the branch of a country's armed forces that fights on, under, or over the sea. Many countries have navies to defend themselves. There are many different types of ships that navies use. Some military ships are used to transport soldiers, sailors, and their equipment around the world. Aircraft carriers are the largest military ships. They can carry up to 100 aircraft that can take off and land on the ship. It takes hundreds of men and women to keep an aircraft carrier afloat. Aircraft carriers cost billions of dollars per year to operate. Cruisers, destroyers, there's a destroyer. Destroyers launch missiles to defend aircraft carriers. Cruisers, destroyers, and frigates are all much smaller than aircraft carriers. They protect carriers against attack and launch missiles and torpedoes. Many navies have ships that perform a small number of jobs. Hospital ships are floating hospitals. Helicopters transport patients to and from hospital ships. Compare and contrast. Airplanes take off from and land on an aircraft carrier's flight deck. How is this deck different than the deck of other types of ships? Submarines are ships that can go underwater and stay there for months. They don't even need to come to the surface for fuel and supplies. They are nicknamed subs. They patrol the sea and can launch torpedoes during wartime. They have tanks that are filled with air to make the ship rise or water to make it dive down into the ocean. Pushing the water out of the tanks helps these ships rise to the surface. Some military submarines can stay beneath the surface for months at a time. Think about it. HMS Artful, a British submarine, has enough fuel and air to stay underwater for 25 years. Can you think of reasons why the ship would need to come up to the surface? What things might the crew need to survive? Submarines are also used by scientists to explore the deepest parts of oceans. Scientific researchers and explorers usually use smaller submarines. These submarines may have mechanical arms, cameras, and other tools to help scientists study the underwater world. The use of space on a sub is very important. Military subs can carry about 150 sailors and the food they need to survive. Passenger ships. Ships that carry a large number of people are called passenger ships or ocean liners. They were very popular before airplanes made it possible to travel far distances in a short time. By the 1960s, these ships could make the trip from America to England in 4 days. Though not as common, passenger ships are still in use today. They don't travel as fast as they used to, but they use less energy than airplanes. Before air travel, passenger ships provided the only means of transportation across oceans. Most trips across the Atlantic Ocean take about 7 or 8 days and are designed for enjoyment. Modern ocean liners are called cruise ships, and they can be enormous. Some are almost as long as megatankers. They transport thousands of people. They have dining rooms and cabins for guests to sleep. Many cruise ships feature exercise rooms, swimming pools, shopping, and live entertainment. Today's cruise ships feature restaurants, theaters, and pools. Think about it. Since airplane travel is faster than ocean travel, why would anyone sail to their destination? Specialty transport. There are many other types of ships that are used to transport things. Many are used for a specific or single job. Cable ships lay and repair underwater cable on the ocean floor. Underwater cables are used for telecommunication, for electric power, and for other purposes. These ships help keep the world connected. Telecommunication is any kind of human communication that takes place across a distance. The cable ships lay telecommunications cables along the ocean floor. Livestock carriers move sheep, cattle, and other animals from one place to another. Icebreakers are ships that clear a path through frozen water for scientific ships and other vessels. Some are military ships operated by the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard. Research ships are smaller ships that carry scientists who conduct research at sea. Some research ships are used to look for oil. Some allow scientists to study sea creatures in their environment. Research ships often have laboratories on board. The hulls of ice-breaking ships have an extra layer of steel to aid in breaking through frozen waters. The future of shipping. The world's merchant fleet is huge. It includes more than 85,000 ships of all sorts and moves the majority of freight around the world. 9 out of every 10 pounds of goods on our planet are transported by ship. Since thousands of ships are involved, international agreements and uniform industry practices are needed to maintain an orderly flow of commerce. Ship technology will continue to improve. The future of shipping may include ghost ships, or ships that are controlled by a captain on land. The captain will be able to navigate the ship based on data that is received from the ship's sensors. Remote control ships are just one development that's likely to affect how goods are shipped all over the world. A fleet is a group of ships or vehicles that move together or are under one management. As the population of the world increases, more ships will be built to carry more goods to more people. Egypt's Suez Canal enables ships to travel between Europe and Asia without going around Africa. There's even a camel in that picture. And that's this book called All About Ships. Did you learn anything new in that one? I did. I hope you enjoyed that and that you subscribe and come back often. And we'll see you next time here on Stories with Grandma.